Hello, hello. Well, guys, it's time to look at our next week's worth of spreads, right? So, for anybody who is following along with my November daily or playing along with my November daily, I want you to know I really appreciate it. I have been a little distracted this week. My poor little dog has had some stomach issues. He's been in the emergency vet in the middle of the night, but he's feeling much better. So, my social media presence hasn't been full brain. So if anybody posts anything and I missed it, I apologize. But anyway, I'm very happy that everyone is participating. All right, so let's take a look. Where were we? Day 8. Day 8 was mermaids or pirates. Now, I know this is probably a no-brainer because I talk about how much I love mermaids all the time, but I do think pirates are really cool as well. And see, I got this little 8 charm on here. Isn't that cool? I found that someone had given me that in Happy Meal, and I never knew what I was going to do with it. But yeah, cool, right? So here's my pirate side. I used my Cricut to cut out some pirates. I had my daughter had her Sweet 16 years ago. She's 21 now. Was mermaids and pirates, so I had a Cricut cartridge to cut a lot of this stuff out. Obviously, I chose mermaids, and there it is. So here's a little tag that I made to go with it, with an octopus charm. There's my number 8 charm, a little button, a pearl, and I said mermaids, of course. I've loved mermaids all my life. In childhood, I had an illustrated copy of The Little Mermaid that was pre-Disney incarnation. And when my daughter was small, she loved Ariel. There's something magical about mermaids. They're just beautiful, and just the fantasy of them. And I love the water. I live at the beach. So yeah, love me some mermaids. I always felt like the pirates were like the boyfriend version of mermaid, but anyway, so that's my page, mermaids or pirates. The next day was number 9, a book from my childhood. I chose Heidi. I loved the book Heidi. I read it and read it and read it. And surprisingly, my grandfather and grandmother lived next door. I loved it because of the grandfather. I thought he was just so interesting and, like a lovable curmudgeon. So on my layout, I included like a pocket watch, and even though he smoked a pipe in my imagination, I had some vintage cigar bands. I used those. Here is a vintage picture from a Heidi book that I had. This is the title page from that Heidi book. I was able to use photographs and pictures out of it that, well, not photographs, but illustrations, and not ruin the book. So I was pretty happy about that. And here's one of the classic illustrations. I have to be really careful because folding this, it's ready to split in half. And here's the preface that I took out of the book, which is also ready to fall apart. And this preface on this particular one was written on Thanksgiving Day in 1920. So, very old version of that book. And I wrote, I've always loved Heidi, the way she wins over her curmudgeon grandfather, the food descriptions and the stories of the meadow and the mountain. I've read this so many times, and I'm always willing for another time. The kindness and hope Heidi instills in everyone around her, the way she engages all your senses with the wind through the treetops and the smells of the browning cheese when the grandfather's making her lunch, and the taste of goat's milk. True treat. I feel like it was a treat for all of your senses when you read that book. So that was a book from my childhood that I liked. Here I just did a little cluster of buttons. Yeah, I really feel like this does kind of express Heidi. I used the pipes that I cut out. I think that was from Nick the Booksmith, one of her downloads. But yeah, so Heidi was my favorite book from childhood. I was an avid reader, so I had a lot of favorite books. Okay, the next page. Take my little pop-up here. He's a little flat. Again, my book is getting full. Day 10 what is your spirit animal? I chose an owl. I love owls. There's a little envelope here that opens up with some fun facts. There are over 200 species of owls. Usually owls are solitary and nocturnal. They balance the food chain by killing rodents that eat, by protecting farmers' fields, and they can rotate their head in a 270 degree. Not that I can do any of those things, but still felt it. That's one of the reasons why I love owls. Ooh, my tag was stuck in there. Okay, and then I made an owl tag with some more information. Owls, to me, mean darkness, magic, night, and death. Owl hoots are sometimes considered an unlucky omen, and sometimes are the symbol of death, like in Native American culture. My boyfriend has some Native American Nanakoke Indian in him, and that's part of their beliefs. I've always had an affinity for owls. Like me, they're wise, ha ha ha, and are believed to be the symbol of truth and higher wisdom. They are said to see beyond the illusions of life and have a keen eye. Owl spirits can symbolize death or a great life change. So, not necessarily always a bad omen. Could just be a big change in your life. So, I did my little owl pop-up. And for everybody who always asks me, this is like the easiest pop-up in the world. Check it out. You just use the bent part of a file folder. You split it in half at the bottom, and you put one half on one side of the page and one half on the other side of the page. And then same with the back of this. You just fold down the sides and glue one side to each, split the sides and put one side on each of your pop-ups. And then just make sure that when you close your page, it folds nicely. Okay, so day 11, what was the first beautiful thing you saw today? The first beautiful thing I saw, and this has a little flip out here, and just a little wooden tag. That's really not relevant to it, but I thought it looked cute in there, so I put it in there. I used some leaves, and here is the tag that I journaled on. And it says, every morning I see my beautiful family and my cute little dog, but this morning I went out to start my car before they were up, and a beautiful big buck was crossing my driveway. So y'all know I live in the woods. It is hunting season. I think bow season maybe here. I don't know. I hear shots every once in a while, but farmers around us are allowed to kill deer to cull the herd because of them eating their crops. But I think it was bow hunting season that made this. But this was a very large buck. Here in Delaware, we have much smaller deer than we had growing up in Pennsylvania. We have very large deer in our woods. But yeah, so the first beautiful thing I saw today was this beautiful buck going slowly and majestically across my driveway. And he just looked at me like, what do you want? And kept walking. So this paper was a printable. It's a winter printable. I can't remember who I got it from, but if I go back and I find it, I'll put it in the description box. But that was exactly what it looked like this morning. He did that little leap at the end. So yeah, that was, and I love these beautiful leaves. They're cut out from some corrugated cardboard. I got those in a kit from someone, and they are, yeah, I thought they were really cool. I'd love to get more of those. Okay, so day 12, the best part of the day. I love the night. This is a kit. I got it from an Etsy. I think released the craft in. I'll have to check. But yeah, I love this printable. The best part of the day is the night. Here's my little owl tag because he's a night critter. And I said I love the night, the dark, the quiet, the hours of no responsibility, cozy snuggling in warm blankets, relaxation. I like to stay up at night and watch TV or craft, or I also just like being cozy in bed. There's just something about the night. I said the night has a power and a rhythm of its own. I did a little collage down here with a metal piece and a old piece of a necklace that to me looked like the moon. And yeah, so day 12, the best part of the day is actually the night for me. So that's my spread. Day 13 was a person who fascinates me. I have always been fascinated by Julia Child. I thought she would be like the best bud to have. I used to watch her cooking show when I was a little kid all the time. I used some of those, again, vintage recipe cards that I always wondered, why do people want these? What are you going to do with them? Well, I've used them a bunch in this book. So yeah, I just put some vintage cards. I printed some pictures out on Julia. Some of her, my favorite quotes of her, like she was 32 when she started cooking, and then she said, I was 32 when I started cooking. Up until then, I just ate. This says, people who love to eat are always the best people. A party without cake is just a meeting. I enjoy cooking with wine. Sometimes I even put it in the food. And I used one of these flashcards, which is a fork. Thought that was kind of cool. I journaled on a recipe card for Julia Caroline Child, born August 15th, 1912, died August 13th, 2004. She lived an amazing life full of adventure, love, excess, and plenty of food. She was a government spy during World War II and helped develop shark repellent for the Navy. She was a breast cancer survivor. She's best known for her cookbooks and TV show. Her show was one of the first cooking shows on American TV. She was a terrible cook well into her 30s and had no natural talent for it. She was a disaster in the kitchen until taking classes at the Cordon Bleu. She met and married the love of her life, her husband Paul, in September 1946 and passed away in 1994. She died 2 days before her 92nd birthday. Yeah, I just, you watch things, like even the old Saturday Night Live skits where Dan Aykroyd pretends he's Julia Child. She thought they were hysterical. Her and her husband used to watch them. So yeah, I just thought she was a really cool person. I felt like she was somebody who really added to our world, and yeah, I wanted to celebrate her. She definitely fascinates me. She was one of those women who proved women could do anything back before women could do anything. So yeah, so that was my day 13, Julia Child, person who fascinates me. Day 14, now this is a huge spread because I had a lot of these vintage book pages, and I didn't want to necessarily cover them all up, so I just added to them. But this day is 3 things I'd do if I had the money. So number 1 was I'd visit the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I used a vintage playing card and I put some images from the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I made a tag which has the Gringotts Bank with the dragon on the top and Diagon Alley, and I said, so my title is Visit to Harry Potter Land by J.K. Rowling via Lori. Since it's been open, it's always been Harry Potter Land in our house. We always talk about saving up and taking a trip. Something always comes up that we have to pay for, and we lose our our money that we wanted to go to Harry Potter Land with. But someday, since we're all Potterheads, and then I finished it with always and a heart. Anybody who's a Potterhead knows what always means. So that was my page on Harry Potter Land. Okay, number 2, visit art museums in Philly and DC. And see here, I saved Edith Holden pages. I didn't want to cover them. I love art. I was an art and music major in college. Of course, I never finished my degree, but I did. I loved art. So on this page, again, because I didn't want to cover up my Edith Holden, I used envelopes and I made a flip out that says Art Museum. And I put famous art museums in DC and Philly that I would love to visit. I have visited most of them, but I'd love to go back. Again, I used a vintage playing card. I said I love art museums in Philly and DC, and they're near enough for day trips to us. We live in Delaware. So many amazing places to see. The Smithsonian, the National Gallery of Art, the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And if anyone has ever seen the movie Rocky, they know the Philadelphia Museum of Art. That's the stairs he runs up in the movie, and they have a Rocky statue in bronze at the top of those stairs. So that's a big thing from my childhood. We used to always go and, climb all over the Rocky statue. And then on this side, I used a word card, and it's lineaments, I guess that's how you pronounce it. The graceful lineaments of her face attracted the artist. That was actually a word. I have a pretty good vocabulary. That was a word I did not know, so it's very cool. Then I used another playing card, and I said, this is definitely a day trip that's going to happen at some point. All the Smithsonian museums and the zoo are amazing, and I had used a vintage receipt and said, please come again, so I underlined please come again. And then the end of day 14, I would like to buy a new Xterra. I could never afford a new Xterra, but I said my 2003 Xterra I passed on to my daughter has 167,000 miles on it and still runs like a top. His name is Brick because he's red and he cuts through the air like a brick. And he has always been our favorite car. So I used a vintage card that said drive over here. And I printed out some photographs of a brand new Xterra in red, just like Brick. And I put Brick 2.0 because that's what we would really love to be able to afford, a new Xterra, the most durable car that I've ever had. And this was numbered, so I circled 14 because it was the end of day 14. Okie dokie then. Day 15 was my favorite restaurant. So my favorite restaurant is a wood-fired pizza joint that serves craft beer. It's called Crust and Craft. These are literally actual pictures of the food at Crust and Craft. The food is amazing. It's craft foods. I made a tag that says, Matt and my first date was to the movies and drinks at Crust and Craft. Over the years, we continue to celebrate birthdays and anniversaries there. The food is amazing. The staff is so kind. The menu so eclectic. And if you ended up with their tiramisu, the best tiramisu. They also make incredible baba ganoush, which is an eggplant dish. They have an incredible seafood dish. And, you know, their prices aren't like out of this world incredibly high. They're more of a special occasion kind of place. But yeah, I love Crust and Craft, and this spread is so Crust and Craft. You know, I used an embossing folder to make some wood grain because their walls are all wood grain, and yeah. So, and I also put and they lived happily ever after because that's where Matt and I had our first date. So, my favorite restaurant, Crust and Craft, Rehoboth, Delaware. If you're ever here, you should try it out. It's a little hole in the wall. It's not a big restaurant, but yeah, incredible food. Here's the wood-fired oven with the pizza in it. So yeah, that is day 15, my favorite restaurant. And I did day 16, even though we haven't gotten there yet. I did my favorite scent or smell, vanilla chai. I used a die cut to cut out a teacup. I used some orchid flowers because that's where vanilla comes from, the orchid beans. Here's my day 16 tag. I made a little tea tag on it. It has, because it's fall, I used a little acorn charm there, and then the back says, I've always loved the smell of vanilla, but when you add chai, which is the aromatic mixture of Indian spices and herbs, cardamom, fresh ginger, black pepper, ground cloves, cinnamon, and fennel, it's so warm and satisfying. The smell means cozy comfort to me, and it is delicious as well. But yeah, the smell is amazing, and that's a favorite scent or smell of mine. So since you're hanging in there, that's the end of the days that I did this week. I don't know if y'all saw what I posted for my rest of my week, but here are the rest of the prompts I'll be working on for finalizing these 7 days. A tradition that makes me feel at home. What store or website can you not stay away from? How to spend a rainy day. A song that evokes a special time in your life and why. And a favorite childhood toy. So I will be working on those and hope to post next week the spreads for these, and hope everybody else is keeping up. Use your hashtags so I can see what you're doing, and thanks to everyone who's playing along, and I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. I've never done my own prompts before. It is actually harder than it seems, but I'm trying to do some real thought-provoking ones like April did with her prompts. She's been a big source of inspiration for this for me. So let me know how you guys are liking the prompts. If you're thinking of any good ones on your own that I need to know about, I would be happy to include them somewhere. And yeah, so guys, have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thanks for visiting. See ya. Bye.